welcome to another episode of The Platform. Super cool to have David Fairclough on the show, a Liverpool legend. He played in an era when they won everything with players like Kevin Keegan, Kenny Dalglish, John Toshak, Alan Hansen. The list goes on, and he was a great player himself.
And a beautiful ball played by Sanis for Fairclough. That's a beautiful goal. That's number 2.
McDermott, Fairclough. Oh, it's 2. David Fairclough. Look how pleased he is.
Yeah, some great memories there, and it was cool to send him a message and jump on Skype and film this for The Platform. All right, well, look, David, thank you so much for being on the show. I appreciate your time. How's things?
Yeah, all good. Obviously, a little bit quieter now that the football season has been in break, but looking forward to the start. Liverpool begin this evening with their first friendly game, so that's always a good sign. You always know then that the season is just around the corner.
I do a show all about stories, and I'd love to know about yours. I mean, I really enjoyed your book, and especially reading about your childhood. If you can sort of take us through that. I mean, growing up in a place where you could hear the crowd at Anfield.
Yeah, I didn't know anything different, obviously, but, you know, I was close to Anfield, close to Goodison as well, and we were surrounded by football, and there was nothing really much else to do in the area where we lived, so it seemed an obvious one to play football in the street. And my dad was a Liverpudlian, so it was obvious probably that I was going to be sort of swayed towards Liverpool more, but it seemed a natural thing. I don't think I took any persuasion. There was never any doubt that I was going to be a Liverpudlian. And as you say, living within earshot of the place was really exciting environment to be in. I went to school just a few hundred yards away from where I lived, and that was again only a couple hundred yards away from the Kop. So we were surrounded by football. It seemed the obvious thing for us to occupy our time with. You know, no rugby at all. A little bit of cricket sometimes in the summer, in kind of this time of the year between seasons. Generally, once the FA Cup final finished, the cricket sort of bat came out. We played cricket for a couple of months, but we couldn't really wait for the football season to begin.
So if you're sitting on your steps with your friends and you don't have tickets to a game, you can literally hear the crowd cheer from Anfield.
Oh yeah, it was as the crow flies, 300 or 400 meters maybe.
Oh my God, man!
So we were very much on the doorstep. The sky was lit at night with the floodlights that for night games and things. So you were very aware of what was going on, and you might have read stories and heard the tales of kids who looked after cars in the vicinity to the ground.
Right.
That was one of my sort of ways of getting a little bit of pocket money in the early days, and
right.
then as well as going to games. I used to go in the boys' pen. That was my slot. That was where a lot of kids, I think, were first initiated in whether you followed Liverpool or Everton. You went into the boys section. It doesn't exist these days, right. But they were like little cages, big cages in the corner of the ground, right next to the Kop. So that was where we generally watched the game from. And as you get a little bit older, you get a little bit taller, you gravitate to the other areas of the stadium.
And what was it like being in Liverpool at that time? I mean, it wouldn't have been. I mean, this is like you started in the late '60s, right?
Well, I was born in '57, so by the time my first memory of going to the game was I went to see reserve team games with my dad. When Liverpool at that time, you could walk three parts of the way around the grounds before the Kemlyn Road stand, which has obviously changed its name a few times since. So we would start off maybe watching the Liverpool attack a goal, say the Kop, and at half time you could walk around the ground. So I go back an awful long way watching Liverpool. I probably went to my first reserve team game at about the age of 4.
Wow.
So then I just sort of scaled up. My first big memory was being in the ground for the day we won the championship against Arsenal in '64. So I was only seven years old, and you know, in Anfield and in the boys' pen with the kids in the streets. We were so close that our parents really, although my mum has said differently since, she felt she always knew where we were. That wasn't the case. We were given free. We were given a lot of freedom in those days. There seemed to be the same awareness of fears of children, you know, getting into trouble, and because we were in very much a neighbourhood, kids were very, very familiar, and it wasn't a kind of, didn't seem a dangerous environment to be a part of.
I was just wondering at that time too, because the Beatles literally are changing the world with music. So if you've got like this Liverpool football team, well, you know how much you guys love your football, and the best band in the world, it must have been an unbelievable time to be a kid in that city.
Yeah, it was amazing. Obviously, we're not up to speed on the groups to a great degree, but my parents, you know, bought Beatles songs, and my dad, you know, I think in the time when I look back on it, there seemed to be the country was kind of split. You're either Beatles or Rolling Stones. My parents were pretty much the Beatles. So there's a lot of Beatles music on everywhere. And
did you ever see them around town?
No, not unfortunately. Where my grandmother lived, which was only 100 yards away, is in what we call tenement blocks. Paul McCartney first lived. His mother lived in that area. I didn't know that until many years later, but my mum said she knew Mrs. McCartney, and so young Paul would have been there. But they, like a lot of people, ultimately your aim is to get away from kind of the area that we were living in, and they moved up to the other end of the city, really, to the more suburban type of area.
Samuel Hansen has taken over. Oh, he saw the gap too, beautifully. Saw a lovely dummy. And Fairclough puts it in! Marvellous goal from David Fairclough. Neil. And now here's Fairclough through. 1-1! Up and under, chased by Dalglish. Fairclough stays in the middle. Dalglish recovers his balance miraculously and crosses, and that is a fine goal by Fairclough. Brave and deservedly rewarded with a goal.
I mean, Bill Shankly, what does it feel like when you're sitting in a room, a young David Fairclough, and you're sitting with like pretty much a god in Liverpool in Shankly? That must have been like crazy for you looking back.
Well, I never met Shanks at the age of 13, 14. I became familiar with people like Ronnie Moran, Joe Fagan, Jeff Twentyman, who was the sort of very much the man who unearthed all the great Liverpool players at the time. People like Keegan and Clements, Emlyn Hughes. He was the guy that found all those on behalf of Bill Shankly. Wow. So I didn't meet Bill until I was 16 years old. And my dad, who was a devoted Liverpool fan, not one to perhaps sort of sing and dance about it, but was very much a committed Liverpool fan. To meet Bill Shankly sitting in his office the day I signed apprentice forms was, I'm sure, was something special for him. He never really spoke much about it, but he was the type of guy that would have been modest and, you know, would have kept his thoughts to himself, really. And it was amazing to hear Shankly talk to you in a way that offered you hope and optimism, and said that perhaps, you know, you had the ability to become a footballer was a great boost. Yes, you still had an awful long way to go, even at the age of 16. But you're very much sort of now in the window, and you were going to be playing football and training under, you know, below, you know, all these people like Bill Shankly, Ronnie Moran, Joe Fagan, a couple of the other guys, Ruben Bennett, maybe some names that one or two people are not familiar with, but were mainstays about, you know, what was going on in the background at Liverpool. And every day you just tried to impress, and you tried to play to a level that you know, kept you very much in people's thoughts. It was a very difficult school to come through, much harder, I believe, than it would be today. I think kids are given a little bit more license these days. You know, you're allowed to make more mistakes, I think. you're given time. In those days, it was critical to always be very much on your mettle. You know, I saw lots of kids come and go. More went than stayed. That's because it was very, very tough. It was a constant battle to impress and to live up to the standards that they expected.
Well, it must be amazing too, because I'm assuming that there wouldn't be many local kids that can be so close to the ground and have Liverpool ingrained in them that can make it all the way through to run out in that team at Anfield.
Yeah, and I think in the book we did a little bit of research and found that nobody had played for Liverpool, certainly not as many games for Liverpool as I had done and lived so close. There was a lad who'd played a couple of games for Liverpool who'd lived a little bit closer than I did, but it was only a short stay. So I take a little bit of pride in the fact that, you know, growing up very much in the shadow and actually progressing and going through all the levels, you know.
For people today, I mean, I think probably just myself being an international fan of Liverpool, I've never been there. I watch all the games and everything, but I think Jurgen Klopp for me is my favourite human on the planet. I imagine that's what Shankly would have been like, right, in his era?
Yeah, I think these days everybody sort of wants to be Jurgen. They want to get the famous hug off him.
I want a hug from Jurgen.
He's a very tactile guy. He lives only just down the street, actually.
Wow.
I'm probably about 150 yards away from where he lives.
Oh my God.
So I see him from time to time, speak to him when he's walking his dog, see him in the local pub, which is just around the corner. But everybody relishes the moment that they meet with Jurgen in these times. And Shankly was very, you know, he was a god. I think not tactile in the same way as Jurgen is, but when he spoke to you, people sat and listened or stood and listened, and he made the hairs on the back of your neck stand on end because he had such an impact and a presence, and he could say great things. Didn't really ever put people down. Always spoke in a very positive vein. Had this great charm about him, and he gave people a lot of encouragement. Everything. I think the thing about Shanks was his passion was obvious, and so charismatic. So maybe since Shanks, we've not had anybody quite like him till Jurgen comes along, who has this incredible charisma in his own way. He's a huge figure. Shankly obviously was a little bit of a smaller man, a dapper kind of guy, as we say, always smartly dressed. Jurgen is very casual and very sort of like, you know, very cool type of character, but he, like Shankly, speaks with an awful lot of enthusiasm all the time. I think that sort of warms him or warms people to him.
With results tonight, it's all tightening up at the top again from first down. I mean, what have you got your sights on?
I didn't know about the other results in this moment, so I heard Bayern lost. But I think that's not too important for us.
It's a very erotic voice, by the way. Translator. Congratulations. Wow. Again, please.
There's a great clip on YouTube where Shankly is addressing the crowd and he's saying that he says that the players are playing for you, the crowd, and if they don't believe me, they believe me now. And
yeah,
were you there for that?
I think that was on the platform of St George's Hall. I think that was I was in the club at the time, but I wasn't there at that day. That was after they came back from the 1974 FA Cup final win, I think.
Wow.
He did when Shanks came to Liverpool. He had the belief in the city first and foremost. He believed that the people had a unique spirit, and he wants to create a team that did justice to that city, to Liverpool. And he was always very quick to get that across, that, you know, the players were playing not for themselves, but for the crowd. He was a very, very special man, and I think he had these great values which people could see were honest. There was nothing false about Bill Shankly at all, and to say was the modern father of Liverpool, there's absolutely no doubt about that. And a lot of the phraseology and the sentiment that he sort of left, I think Liverpool still live by today.
Natural enthusiasm, that's the whole thing. It's the greatest thing in the world, natural enthusiasm. Yeah. You're nothing without it. Yeah. Nothing.
And the dedication and what I put into the game. You only get out the game what you put into it, Shelley. And I put everything into it I could, and still do, for the people and for the people that I was playing for and the people that I was manager for. I didn't cheat them out of anything.
Since I come here to Liverpool or to Anfield, I've drummed it into our players time and again that they are privileged to play for you. And if they didn't believe me, they believe me now.
Yeah, it's so awesome. And I mean, look, your story is kind of like a movie when you can be the young boy in the street with the ball, and then all of a sudden you're actually playing in that stadium that you used to listen to. Everyone always talks to you about the goal against Saint-Étienne and how important it was, but I'm wondering, because I found footage of it on YouTube, if you can set the scene for me about that night in particular, when you came on, what you had to do and what happened.
Well, it was a special night. I think we all sensed that something great was going to happen before the game, because normally, although the crowds got to Anfield early and always set a great atmosphere, there was something a little bit different about Saint-Étienne. Saint-Étienne at that time were probably the favourites for the European Cup, as it was known. They'd been beaten in the final the year before, so they were very much a golden team. The French had great belief that this was the team that was going to be, a star team for years to come. We lost the first leg in Saint-Étienne, so we did have a little bit of a battle on our hands. But the crowd seemed to sense that it was going to be special. They made it they upped it a little bit. And when we came onto the pitch before the game, there was so many flares and flags and all those different things. It really set a fantastic atmosphere. The game ebbed and flowed. We got back on level terms through Kevin Keegan in the first couple of minutes. But then after that, once Saint-Étienne settled, they had a great confidence about them, Saint-Étienne, and I don't think they were overawed by the fact that we'd equalised so early on in the game. They played their natural game, and as I say, the game went one way and the other. They had chances, we had chances, but it got to a nerve-wracking part of the game when they scored in the second half. At that point, then Liverpool need 2 to get through to the next round. I was still sitting on the bench at that point. Bob Paisley told me to warm up. I was warming up just about as Ray Kennedy got the second goal. So put us on level terms in an aggregate sense. And they let the game settle for a couple of minutes after the Ray Kennedy goal, but then I got the call then to go on and kind of final throw to see if we could change things, because, as I say, they had so much quality, Saint-Étienne, and they weren't kind of ruffled that much. I think they still felt they were going to get through. I come on, and basically, both sides needed a goal. A goal for them would have made it impossible for us to get through. A goal for us was obviously what we needed. And we had some. I came on, got the opportunity, scored. We had an anxious 4 or 5 minutes left to just hold out, and it was special. It's been fantastic for me, because people remember it so well. If you were there on the Saint-Étienne night, everyone has a story, and I think I've heard so many thousands and thousands of those tales. And people who weren't there have also some interesting tales to tell, how they listened to it on the radio and one thing and another. It seemed to have made such an impact on everybody that followed Liverpool around those times.
Gill gives it back. Kay towards Hervé Revelli. Kay lobbing it forward, header back by Lopez. And Fairclough is onside. This now could be interesting. Fairclough! Super sub strikes again. Just watch the arms go up for offside, but he was clearly onside. Took it well on his chest, and how cool this boy is. Tucks it under Djokovic, and it is now 3-1 on the night, 3-2 on aggregate. We've got 6 minutes to play.
I think it's because it's on YouTube. So do you ever like get the urge to just go on there and have a quick Google and have a look?
No, I do get the chance to see it from time to time because when I've been watching Liverpool TV, you know, it pops up on. It's one of the major highlights of modern history, Liverpool modern history. So it's shown quite a bit, thankfully, and I think I feel now it doesn't feel like it was 40 years ago. I don't think, because I see it so regularly. It feels like it was very, very recent. So,
but that roar from the crowd when you put that ball in, that because I think the Kop at that stage was all people standing, and it was like this incredible. I don't know. I mean, it was great to watch the Dortmund game a few years ago. The Barcelona game recently was awesome and everything. But something about when you hit that goal, it was an explosion of energy.
The noise was special. Obviously, when you're actually involved in that moment, for somebody like me, you're not actually aware of the real depth of the noise. You know you've done something good, but to hear it played back, and the fact that there were very few sort of sound, microphones picking football up in those days. There were only 2 or 3. The actual noise of it is pretty immense, and what it would have been like in the modern day, maybe it would be interesting to see. But I've heard different. I've seen on the TV. I've heard different radio commentaries of it. It's very, very exciting. It still makes me go cold on occasions, particularly the radio commentaries. The radio commentaries were fantastic, and the famous commentator from here when he did the TV coverage, when he says Super Sub strikes again. That kind of cemented my name probably as Super Sub, I think, in a lot of people's thoughts.
And Fairclough is onside. This now could be interesting. Fairclough.
And you got some pretty serious height on that celebratory jump afterwards. That's a great photo.
Yeah. Some people said it wasn't a great celebration. I thought it was quite good, given it was spontaneous. It wasn't planned. And I've got some great souvenirs of that moment. I've got some great photographs. Somebody had a painting done of it very recently that we're considering bringing out as a limited edition. It's quite impressive when I was given it, and once people have seen it, think that it's something that maybe some more people should have the opportunity to share.
Okay, well, I'm talking with you via Skype from Australia, so it's a long way away. And if you could explain for us, in that magical town of Liverpool, how close you and Everton are. You're in the same town, how close the grounds are, and what that rivalry is like.
Yeah, well, Liverpool and Everton are separated only by the width of Stanley Park, which is our big, well, I think it's one of the bigger parks in the city. And it's fascinating to think that the clubs of, certainly in years gone by, they were probably a little bit more closer in stature. I think in recent times, Liverpool have sort of moved up a peg or two. But to have two great clubs in such close, proximity, and to share the city the way that they do. Some cities that they have two football teams, then they're kind of separated at maybe east and west, or north south. For us, there's no kind of dividing line. It's not like a case of like in Rangers. If you live in Glasgow, if you live that end of the city, you support Rangers. If you live the other end, Celtic. Here we're all in a big soup together. We share the same pubs and schools and all those different things. It's a great rivalry, and it's one that perhaps really comes alive when the games against each other sort of come closer.
Well, I'm asking you about that because another great highlight I see on YouTube of you is that incredible goal you scored against Everton. You seemed to run through the whole back half of the team, and before that, I understand a lot of those games were ending in draws. So I imagine what your life must have been like after you scored that goal. You would have been the man.
Well, at that point, I'd moved out to they knocked the areas of Liverpool down, and people were moved out to the outskirts, and I moved to a notorious council estate. And after I scored that goal, I felt my life was in a little bit of trepidation. It was there were a few notorious Evertonians around those times.
Oh no!
And to actually get a chance to play in what was my first derby, I having grown up following Liverpool through all the years, obviously, I was aware of the rivalry, and I'd played against Everton many times in the street, friends against friends. But this was the real thing. My first opportunity to come on as a substitute was a great thrill, and the fact that, again, it looked like the game was petering out to a goalless draw. I think that the previous, I don't think there'd been a goal in derbies for 2 or 3 years.
Wow.
Games were always very, very closely fought. And I didn't remember much about my appearance because I only came on for about 15 minutes for John Toshak. Wandered over to the far side of the field, and you're aware that people are leaving the ground. Some people are deciding, well, that's it, 0-0, I'm off, I'm going, and you just know that now's the time maybe to do something exciting. And in those days, my style was to run with the ball, and as soon as I had the ball at my feet, then I only had one thing in my mind.
Less than 3 minutes remaining. And a draw here is a result that would please the other challengers for the championship. But look at this from Fairclough. Still going.
Great goal, because he basically started it just after the halfway line.
Just inside our own half, as Everton took a throw in. I was unaware of red shirts on the pitch at that time, in all honesty. It was about me and the ball, and as one Everton player came towards me, I went past him, another one comes, I go past him, and I'm on I go. And before I hit the slow shot, and thankfully it went in. It was fantastic moments, and Everton fans still hate me for it. I have window cleaner here at the house. He was talking about it only about 3 weeks ago. So we can sort of spend time with Evertonians. I've got Evertonians cleaning my house, so I don't sort of only deal with Liverpoolians. We're pretty good for sort of 50 weeks of the year, but when we sort of the rivalry, when the games come about, the rivalry takes on a little bit of a special feeling. So it's nice to be the hero. It's always, Divock Origi will be etched in Liverpool history for years, and Everton history for many years for scoring that winner last year. So it's always good to be the match winner.
Well, you wrote a great book, David. I really enjoyed reading it. So tell us about that process. What was that like for you looking back at all those times?
Well, it was something that I kind of had it in my mind to do, and I had 1 or 2 offers to do it. People have sort of said, have you ever thought about doing a book? I had thought about doing it years earlier, and I kind of wanted to write it myself. But my wife always said, "Oh, who's interested? Forget about it." And,
wow.
And what happened? But there's an interesting tale, I think, because growing up where I did in Liverpool. And then experiencing football on the continent. I went to Switzerland, I went to Belgium. I've come back and sort of experienced 1 or 2 things after football. I thought to myself, get off my chest. There were 1 or 2 things perhaps that people were regularly asking me about, and it was kind of getting to a point where I thought, well, I can't do it justice really in a few sentences, or a few phrases. So I felt we should put the bigger story together, and I set about doing it, and I'd lost my wife as well, so it was kind of therapeutic because my wife died very sort of very swiftly. There was no warning of any illness that came on. She just passed away, and it was kind of a bit of therapy for me to get off my chest, to go through some memories and things, and it was a good thing to do. I did enjoy doing it. Thankfully, people who've read it kind of enjoyed it. I know autobiographies tend to be a bit, same old. So you've got to try and maybe sort of do one or two things differently. But ultimately, they're about one person. Some people might read autobiographies and get fed up listening about the person, but that's what you try to avoid.
So what's it like for you now? I mean, obviously, when you become a Liverpool player and then you score goals like in moments like you did, people never forget them. So what's it like for you in the city? It's football mad. Do you get recognised every day? Do people stop you for a chat?
Well, yeah. I'd be lying if I said I didn't. Which is the nice thing about being a footballer. People do appreciate what perhaps you've contributed to down the years, and you just walk along and. Regularly down, in the past, people would say to me, hi Dave, whatever. And my wife would always say, who's that? I said, I have no idea. Even after being married for 30 years, she still was saying the same thing. It's just a thing of life that Liverpool fans don't forget you. Thankfully, I think they'd like to. Well, I'd like to think that. I tried my best when I was there, so a lot sort of kind of respect on that, and I do things on a regular basis for the club with supporters and sponsors and people like that. So I'm with a supporters group on Saturday, which is always nice. People have the various memories, young and old. We'll ask things about the past and what's going on at the moment as well. So it's nice to be involved in that sense.
When you look back, Dave, at your younger years, how hard did you actually work to make your dream happen? What level of commitment did it take for you to reach the top and become a Liverpool football player?
Well, I was totally devoted to football. I played football all the time, every chance that I had. The environment that I lived in was a ready-made training ground kind of thing. So all we did was my parents were very keen that I had a good education, and they kept my focus on education. It wasn't all about football, but all my spare time was spent doing sports. If it wasn't football, it was a bit of athletics in school, organised school events. So that in effect is part of your training. You build up your physique, perhaps your running ability, and all those things. So it wasn't a conscious thing to be a footballer. At one point I remember thinking, well, one day I might be a school teacher or I might be a journalist. But you never think that you have that dream to be a footballer, but you never think it's going to actually be fulfilled. So although I trained and worked to make myself better, a lot of it was natural. And as I say, the things that I involved myself in, I think, helped me develop my pace, kind of a movement, being agile, being athletic. I did think subconsciously, but maybe I think these days you hear of kids or parents perhaps getting personal coaches for their kids, wow, to make them into sports people. I mean, such as the desire to have a successful offspring. People go through all these different lengths to try and get the kids on a career path. We were lucky that we were able to just develop naturally, I think. And until I really got to about 16 when I signed the apprentice forms for Liverpool, it wasn't until that point then that I really had to knuckle down consciously, not get drawn into alcohol and those type of things, be aware of getting sleep and rest, and making sure that for the next day I was fit and well. That was always the aim. But I think at 16, once the distractions sort of begin to appear, going out, girls, that type of thing. At that point, I think you have to keep focused and think, what do you want first, and what is going to impact on you, sort of not achieving what you want to achieve. So I think I was always very, very conscious of that, and thankfully, I led a quite a disciplined youth.
And what advice would you have for anyone out there that, not so much even football, but just chasing dreams in life? Like, what would you say to them?
Well, it's all possible. Without a shadow of a doubt, you can have the wildest of dreams, and you can make it happen. I think it depends on you, how much you want it, and you will take knocks along the way. Not every career is an upward curve. There are stages where you're going to be tested, and at that point, then that you resolve your desire. All then sort of comes out in you. Do you have it inside you to say, well, I'll show people that they're wrong, or I can get over this little sort of downturn, and keep plugging away, and be prepared to perhaps be a little bit flexible. Sometimes you have to change your route slightly, but it's very much possible. I could never say anything else, because I did want to be the footballer, so I've lived the dream, and still got one or two dreams on my list to do as well. So I'm plugging away in a number of other ways.
Awesome. Well, we're having a chat just as about Liverpool are pretty much going to start their new season shortly, and it's exciting times. European champions. I mean, do you watch every game? Are you still like on the edge of your seat cheering for the team? And what do you think about the team at the moment?
Well, I'm not on the edge of my seat all the time. I think I'm a pretty laid-back type of supporter these days. But what really grabs me is the emotion. I love watching the supporters' reactions on things. That takes me back to when I was a supporter, when I had no experience of what's going on behind the scenes and happening on the pitch. The emotion that the fans have and the passion that they have for success really sometimes brings me to, I can feel myself welling up a little bit. The passion for Liverpool is so enormous. I can put myself in that place. I love the Champions League final. I was there with my son, and it was great to be together and celebrate it and all those things. So I enjoy the big games, but most of the season I'm kind of, I can take it all in my stride. It affects me when they lose, obviously, but I can take it a lot in my stride most of the time. But I love to see Liverpool achieve and to break new boundaries, to go and get the sixth European Cup was enormous. It brings such a feel-good factor to Liverpool Football Club, but also to the city. Everybody, for weeks after, people have been really, really on an upward, feeling in an upward mood, and looking forward to the new season. I think we have a good team. I think we could improve it slightly. I think we need a little bit more of a. I think we need 1-2 more signings. I think the squad looks a little bit sort of light, if I'm honest. The fact that Mane, Salah and Firmino are away at the moment. So you look at who's going to really come in and sort of fill that void in these pre-season games. That gives you an idea, gives me an idea that Liverpool are a little bit sort of light in terms of how we fill the spaces if some of our big players are not available. It's been fantastic to have people like Van Dijk and Alisson come in over the last 12 months. And hopefully Liverpool are able to bring another couple of players who are maybe on a similar level to the quality that we have been sort of attracting in the last year or so, because we can't always rely on just 2 or 3 potential goal scorers. I think we have to have 1 or 2 more in reserve and ready to come off the bench if needed.
Well, it's exciting times, and it's so great to have you on the show. Thank you so much for the chat, because I think for a young boy to be outside his stoop at his house and to be going to that field around the corner and be doing legendary things, it's such a great story. I hope you're proud of it, and thank you for being on the show.
Yeah, you're welcome, Andy. No problem at all. Yeah, it's good. Enjoyed it.
So there you go. Super fun to have him on the show. I really appreciate it. Hope you enjoyed the look back and some of the advice there, and we'll see you next time on the platform.